The Galaxy S24 Ultra, Samsung's love letter to tech enthusiasts and productivity junkies. When it launched a year ago, it was the flagship to beat. Now, with the Galaxy S25 Ultra on the shelves, the S24 Ultra's shiny glow might feel slightly dimmed, but trust me, this is far from a relic. So today, let's answer the $1,000,000 question, or rather a $1,200 question. Should you buy the Galaxy S24 Ultra in 2025, or is it time to jump on the upgrade treadmill? Spoiler alert, there's more life left in this device than a cat with 9 lives. I bet you'd say that 3 times. Let's get started. First things first, I think no matter the video you watch of the Galaxy S24 Ultra from a reputed content creator, we're looking to add my name in there soon, all of them still hold their value today just as much as they did before the launch of the S25 Ultra. The reason I'm saying this is because the S24 Ultra will not become any less powerful or feature rich or less impressive by the launch of the S25 Ultra. The experience with the S24 Ultra will not change only due to the existence of the S25 series, and the same goes for the models before those. So, to keep it short for the ones with the attention span of less than the average TikTok video, the S24 Ultra is a powerhouse with incredible battery life, performance, and cameras, and as long as you take care of it, it will take care of you. Now, for the people who clicked on this video for more density on the information side of things, let's get started with my experience of having this phone for the last 1 year and what you should expect if you already have one or if you're looking to get the S24 Ultra this year. I want to get something out of the way first. The major thing about the S24 Ultra that is making me keep this phone, aside from the specs, is the software support promised on this device. A whopping 7 years of OS updates, which means you still have most of that time left of support on this phone when it comes to major OS updates and security patches. Now, I would have made the plunge from my S22 Ultra to the S23 Ultra last year instead of going to the S24 Ultra, but the 7 years of software support compared to the 3 years on the S23 Ultra was a deal breaker for me since it would have only left me with 2 years of support after my purchase. Whereas, if you get the S24 Ultra today, that still gives you 6 years of support. This will take the S24 Ultra all the way to Android 21, which should most likely be on One UI 13. The software on the S24 Ultra has been buttery smooth ever since I got the phone. The phone came out of the box with One UI 6, then it got updated to One UI 6.1, and is about to get the official release for One UI 7 any day now. I didn't bother using any of the beta builds for any of the software releases because this was my primary phone and I didn't want to take any chances. This makes it convenient for me to tell you guys about my experience with the phone as it was intended to be used by the majority of the public. I have never once had an issue with the software on the S24 Ultra, and this is hands down the best Android experience for me till date. Software is good and all, but let's get to the actual utility of the device. I will try and keep this different from a review and only share my experience with every major factor of this phone that I feel like is worth addressing. First off, the media. The media has been super enjoyable on the screen, not only thanks to the high resolution AMOLED panel, but also because of it being a Samsung screen. They are the best screen manufacturers in the industry, and there is nothing that beats this one, especially with the anti-reflective coating. This was the first time Samsung introduced something like this, and it's been an absolute game changer. Viewing the screen outdoors has been fantastic, and the peak brightness of 2600 nits has only added to that experience. It generally feels like you shouldn't be able to look at the screen in the scorching sunlight, but then all of a sudden, you can. It feels almost too good to be true, but I can't stress enough on how good it looks. The colors really pop, and that 120Hz refresh rate makes things buttery smooth, and the 6.8-inch screen size is just mammothy enough to enjoy any piece of content you can watch. I love big phones, and I would imagine you do too, otherwise you wouldn't really be clicking on this video, would you? Although I did baby my phone quite a bit, when I started to hear about the anti-reflective oleophobic coating wearing off the screen, I was quick to slap on a screen protector of my own. Over Reddit, I have seen plenty of posts where the oleophobic coating has started to wear off the S24 Ultra, and the fact that a lot of other big creators have had a similar issue, I wasn't taking any chances. So, as long as you take care of his screen and don't wipe it with any alcohol based solution or any sunscreens on your hand, you should be good to go. But because I clean my phone with all sorts of shite, I might as well just keep my screen protector on. But using a screen protector will obviously take the anti reflective coating away. But that's when you come across a dilemma. Either use Samsung's proprietary screen protector that still maintains the anti reflectiveness to a certain extent, or get an aftermarket completely matted out screen protector. As you can tell, I chose the latter option, and it works well for my purposes. Sure, the contrast is slightly lower now, and the brightness isn't as effective as it would be without it, but with how bright the screen gets and how punchy these colors are on the phone, it really doesn't make that much of a difference in your day to day use, especially in my case. The speakers have remained one of those things, but I would go out on a limb to say that they are top notch. I've seen plenty of content creators complaining about these speakers and plenty others saying quite the opposite. But I'm more than happy with how they sound. The earpiece doubles as a speaker as well, which makes the experience more immersive, and it's plenty loud. This also makes it pretty good for phone calls as well, which is what you would expect from a phone anyway. Speaking of phone calls though, they have always been super clear on either sides for me. The mic always picks up my voice perfectly while eliminating a solid chunk of background noise, even when the phone is on loudspeaker. I would have the TV running in the background, or my controller buttons getting smashed, or I would just be outside in a busy environment, but the caller would never be able to hear most of it, if any. That could also be due to the mic profile that you can select during a phone call in your notifications panel. The cameras of this phone have been nothing short of amazing. But yes, just like every other camera, this is not perfect. It will struggle with fast moving objects in low light conditions in auto mode, but that's when you can move to the manual mode. Now, I don't expect everyone to know how to use manual settings on any camera, so let's stick to the good old point and shoot. The images produced by this camera are generally great. They're sharp, they're contrasty, they handle dynamic range really well. With the ability to go all the way up to 200 megapixels, it can churn out some pretty sharp images, but they may look a little overprocessed in some cases. For someone who uses their phone cameras casually, this can be a bit of an overkill, but that's always a good thing when it comes to cameras. If you're outdoors and you're going to take photos or videos using this camera, you will always turn out to be a happy bunny. Low light is when you might see it struggle, but that's not nearly as big as a critique as you might think. When you look at camera systems on the S24 Ultra, 23 Ultra, 22 Ultra, maybe even the earlier systems, they've all been solid with very minor improvements to them over the generations. With how good any cameras on the high end smartphones are these days, any downside is more of a nitpick than anything, I believe. They're all incredible sensors that come in different flavors. All you need to do is pick your favorite one. Samsung has its own way of processing images, Apple has its own, OnePlus has theirs, and so on and so forth. Reddit has been a huge source of the goods and bads about the camera system, by the way, with majority of them being positive, some glazing the iPhone cameras, while the rest just enjoying their time seeing these two bicker among themselves, and that pretty much sums up the entire S24 Ultra subreddit as a whole. Now, I might come under that third category, but I do see where these arguments come from. The S24 Ultra has a behemoth of a camera system with its zooming capabilities, the clarity it maintains when zooming, and the brilliant video capabilities as well. But where it starts to break down is when you use it in social media apps. Although it is still a great performer, since Samsung worked with major social media apps to integrate the S24 Ultra's camera into the platforms, it still isn't as seamless as the iPhones. But come to think of it, the fact that it reaches very close to the best quality available on social media, after all the processing and compression, should speak volumes about the native camera. This camera has never been a letdown, even in social media apps, let alone the native camera app. It's very safe to say that if cameras are of importance to you, sticking with the S24 Ultra or getting an S24 Ultra will definitely put a smile to your face. Yes, the S25 Ultra may have a better 50 megapixel ultra wide camera compared to the 12 megapixel on the S24 Ultra, but that alone isn't big enough reason to spend a full kidney's worth. The wide angle lens is indeed a bit of a lower resolution on the 24, but if you really need to zoom in for the resolution and get all that information in, just use the zoom cameras. They're all the same as the new model and also as the older models, kinda. The S23 Ultra did have a 10x telephoto compared to the 5x on the 24 and 25 Ultra, but that is genuinely not enough of a consideration factor to ponder over. Its higher resolution at a lower, more practical focal length or zoom do not make a difference. Enough about the cameras though. The next big thing you would care about going for an older phone would be the battery. damn. They just called it an older phone? Sorry. The 5000 milliamp hour cell has been here for the last few generations, and it remains the case with the newer S25 Ultra as well. But how is that same cell on the S24 Ultra? Well, it has been phenomenal for the past year and it is still going strong. Although your usage pattern may vary from mine, but as per my use, I was on less than 4 hours of screen on time with my S22 Ultra, and the S22 Ultra pretty much doubled that by giving me a consistent 6 plus hours screen on time, which I'm more than happy with. But more about that in just a second. I spend a lot of time over brain rot content on TikTok and YouTube while doing some work related stuff here and there. WhatsApp voice and video calls are a huge part of my utilization as well, and it is well known for chewing through battery life. But so far, I have had no issues at all. Not a single day have I managed to kill this phone entirely unless I was really trying to. But again, bear in mind, like I mentioned, I do baby my phone, so I have the battery protection turned on my phone, which means that all these stats are from my battery starting off at 80% capacity every day. And if I do remove that and charge it all the way up to 100%, my screen time obviously goes up by another 20% as well, yielding me somewhere around 7 hours of screen on time, if not a little bit more than that, with my particular kind of usage. I did take the phone out for about 2 days and swore not to charge it until it died on me, and guess what? One day and a solid few hours in, my phone died when I finally reached home from a trip to London, literally seconds before I plugged it into charge. That very day, I used my camera quite generously, used my S Pen to take those convenient pictures from a distance, and spent time making calls to my loved ones. And it still went really strong. I would give this an A plus battery life if I was MKBHD, but I'm not MKBHD. But he did give the battery a huge score though, if I remember correctly. Let's get to the more niche aspects of this phone now. The S Pen. You know how I mentioned using the S Pen for photos? Well, all that is thanks to the Bluetooth connectivity on the pen with the phone, which is now officially not a part of the Galaxy S25 Ultra. So in one way, the S25 Ultra is a bit of a downgrade from the S24 Ultra. I personally use the S Pen every day. I know it's not everybody's cup of tea, but now that I am pretty much reliant on the S Pen for things, I will be sticking to an Ultra series for the foreseeable future. But what do I use it for exactly? It makes for a pretty handy tool for making quick notes, writing down lists, jotting down information in a split second when an idea strikes you in the middle of the night, a remote trigger for the cameras, signing documents on the go, making suggestive edits on PDFs, and stretching my notes when I need it. See? Multifunctional. I'm not sure about you guys, but I feel like the AI features have not really been as big of a deal for me. I have rarely used them, and if I'm honest, I just don't see myself using them in the future. So, for the sake of this video, I'll be keeping them completely out of topic. What is an interesting topic for me, though, is the design. I've seen people crib about the design of the S24 Ultra being too boxy and pointy and that it hurts their palm. Whereas on the other side, there are people like me who are obsessed with the boxy look of the Ultra series. Although I have babied this phone with a case, I don't use a case all the time. If anything, I like the boxy feel in my hand, more than the case with the rounded corners, to be fair, and I enjoy using the phone caseless when I'm at home. I made a video about the Galaxy S24 Ultra 6 months later on the channel previously, which I'll link right below the like button for you, where I speak on the design quite a bit more. But to sum things up with the design, I think the boxy look was what made the Note or Ultra series have a completely different league of their own. Now, with the curved design of the S25 Ultra, it doesn't sit right with me because it blends into any other smartphone on the market. But design is subjective, and you can be the judge of that. They're both well structured devices, but I can only speak to the length of owning my S24 Ultra. I am biased towards the design, so which one would you choose? I think addressing the yearly spec bumps is also important in today's video. I don't think the specs matter all that much anymore. With the amount of power packed in all these chips, I don't think anyone is making the most of their phone's power unless you're constantly editing videos or performing super heavy tasks on your phone at all times. The jump from the Snapdragon 8 Gen 3 to Snapdragon 8 Elite isn't big enough to warrant an upgrade. I would even say that it's not worth the jump from an 8 Gen 2 or an 8 Gen 1 processor for day to day use. Yes, there are efficiency gains, but they only make a minor difference in the day to day use anyway. After all, the S25 Ultra only claims an extra 1 hour of video playback with the same battery capacity, and when they say it's 1 hour of video playback, that pretty much means that there's jack hole improvements in the battery. AI has been the center point of smartphones now, and I'll be honest, most of them are just gimmicks. I'm tempted to make a video about features that existed before and now are being rebranded as AI. I will not be doing much or going over any of the AI features in this video, but if it is something that excites you, most of the AI features launched with the S25 Ultra will come down to the S24 Ultra in the One UI 7 update. Some features may just be dependent on the Snapdragon 8 Gen 3 chip, but even they will be put behind a paywall at the end of this year. Putting AI aside, honestly speaking, I feel like the Galaxy S23 Ultra would also be a solid investment today, but the only thing that keeps it away is the 3-year software support. This keeps it in a software support window of another 1 year. Otherwise, it would have been a no-brainer to go for the S23 Ultra as well. I was a fan of the curved edges, but the S24 Ultra has slowly made me change my opinion anyway. With all that being said, if you're considering the S24 Ultra or you're thinking of sticking with it, I'm not going to leave you with an obnoxious answer. I think you're doing the right thing. The S24 Ultra is a great deal now anyway, and you can pick it up for less than £800 as well. The yearly change or going for the latest and greatest every single year is slowly becoming a thing of the past, and I'm glad that it is. Smartphones are peaked now, and there is not much room for big improvements anymore. A change every few years makes more sense than they ever did. Now, what do you think of the S24 Ultra? Are you planning to get one? Are you sticking with one? Let me know what your thoughts are, and I'll be sure to catch you guys later.